Hey guys, welcome back to Next Level. You're about to see another fantastic special guest interview, this time with the one and only Zara Robinson. We get into talking about her cheer career, we talk about her new adventures, going some really fun directions, and how cheerleading helped her to get there, the life lessons it's taught her over her years in the sport, her experience with Team England. We talk about Coed and all-girl cheerleading, all kinds of things. It was such a great conversation. It was fantastic catching up with her. I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So I won't talk much longer. Just remember, like the video, subscribe to the channel, put your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think of these interviews. And without further ado, let's get it started. All right, I'm here today with one of my absolute favorite human beings. Zara, welcome. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. Thanks for joining me. Yeah, we're going to chat. Well, we can chat all sorts of things today. We're going to kind of see where this goes. We don't have much of a schedule for this talk. We just kind of connected the other day and said, yeah, let's do this. So this should be fun. So in case anybody, isn't aware of you, just give us a quick rundown on your cheer background, your career and all that good stuff.
Okay, so the first time I did any cheerleading was in 2009, which is 12 years ago. I started with a team called Surrey Starlets. I was with them for 2 years, and then I moved to Unity and was with them for the rest of my cheer career. I kind of grew with them, started on their lower level teams, and then worked my way up until I was on Ruby, which was their all-girl level 5. Well, it was level 4, and then we bumped it to level 5, and then competed at Worlds twice with them, and also then made my way onto Team England and competed 3 years at the World Championships with them. And then took a bit of a break, came back for Unity Steel, coached by you. Did a season on that at level 6, or what would now be level 7. Took another year out, came back for a little bit, tried to do one final year, and then the world went into shutdown. So that brings us up to now.
Yeah, that's a recurring theme. I think everybody over a certain age that I'm talking to uses the words, yeah, retired, and then got back
No one truly retires from cheerleading. I refuse to say I'm retiring. I'll hang up my shoes for like a season, and then I'll be back.
I mean, I still occasionally consider a comeback, so I don't know when that wears off. I mean, it usually
once lockdown's over, I'm going to hold you to this.
I think the idea of putting on a tight-fitting uniform or actually flipping over for more than an hour or so, my knees just tell me it's a bad idea. So
I do understand.
But there is definitely the gravitational pull of the sport is pretty hard to escape. That's
yeah, there is something about cheerleading that once you're in it, it is so hard to leave. And it does make me sad to think that I can't do this until the day I die. Like there will be a time where you just can't do it anymore. And that is sad, because there is a pull that gets you locked in and is very hard to leave.
I think there's some things about that. So, I mean, if the performance side of the sport is something that you love, then that is a real buzz, just being on stage, regardless of what you're physically doing. I think that's, for me, that's something I still miss, is just that buzz of being on stage and in front of an audience that is hard to replace in any other setting.
Sure.
And then, yeah, I guess the other thing about it is as a sport, it's so diverse that you can change your role. If you get an injury, God forbid, or you just get old like me and you can't tumble very easily anymore, then you can get in a routine and not have to tumble, maybe, if you're lucky. You could just be a stunter. You can evolve.
And equally, as if you're a tiny kid and you're flying, and then you have your growth spurt and you're now 5'10", you can become a back spot. And that is actually something that I've always loved about cheerleading. It doesn't matter what state you're in physically, you can fit into a routine.
It is one of the beauties of the sport. There's sort of a place for everybody, different body types, abilities, everything. You can bring different strengths to a team. That's one of the, I think one of the most attractive things about it as a sport.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to talk about your growth spurt for a second. I was wondering when that was going to come.
No, still waiting for that. Still standing. Actually, I measured myself the other day, and I think I went from like 4'9" to 4'10". So, I mean, that's an improvement. I'll take it. 4'10".
It's all that hanging off of ledges. You must be just stretching out.
I maybe gravity is finally doing the work.
All right. Well. On that note, let's move in this direction. So, I mean, maybe this isn't actually an interview. This might be an intervention.
Oh
Um,
no.
because Zara, as we've already established, one of my favorite humans. Um, why do I always see you now fighting people, throwing yourself off of buildings? I mean, and doing all sorts of ridiculous, dangerous looking activities on the internet. Following your adventures has become one of my favorite day-to-day pastimes. So please explain what on earth is going on. What are you doing?
What's going on in my brain? Who knows? No, I'm actually on a pursuit to join the British Stunt Register, which is sort of like the unofficial qualification to become a stunt woman or a stunt man in the UK. So it's not a legal requirement, but it's definitely the first place that casting directors and stunt coordinators will go to find a stunt woman or a stunt man. To get onto the stunt register, you have to have 6 elite disciplines. So they come into different categories: fighting, falling, strength, agility, this sort of stuff. So over the last year, what you've been seeing is me trying to sort of collate my 6 skills and progress them to the point that I can then submit them forward for the tests or have the right qualifications to then apply and hopefully become a member of the British Stunt Register. So yes, jumping off buildings, jumping into water and fighting people is all just kind of part of it. So yeah, sorry if I've given you a shock.
We should probably point out the disclaimer at this point that all of these things you're training in and being appropriately supervised and all of these things, you don't recommend anyone just go out and jump off buildings if they want
found a
to be
nice high building to jump off. It's very calculated, and I've built up to these things quite slowly. So yeah, hopefully it's calculated risk, managed risk.
So you're trying to go from stunting to stunting.
That's exactly what I am. I realized this the other day when I was putting hashtags on my Instagram post, that I hashtag everything with stunt, but it means 2 different things depending whether it's a cheerleading post or a non-cheerleading post.
I mean, that's the name of your reality series right there. If you need it, I'll take
Stunting to Stunting.
A small percentage of creation rights for that. But yeah, stunting to stunting is the way to go. I mean, it's very cool. What I'm, yeah, I've seen you doing obviously a lot of parkour stuff. Yeah, Taekwondo.
Yeah, so the main things that I'm able to train right now are Taekwondo, which at the moment we're just doing via Zoom, but that's one of the most fun things that I'm doing because it's so similar to cheerleading in a way. Like as a flyer, you do a lot of heel stretches, you do a lot of like kick double baskets, arabesque double downs. So to have these kicks that you're learning in Taekwondo, which are like a front kick, which is essentially the same shape as a heel stretch, or a back kick, which is essentially just an arabesque that you don't hold for very long, there's a lot of similarities. That one's very fun for me to kind of almost like build on things that I can already do. But something that I definitely don't have is speed. For some reason, I've discovered I don't have to be very fast when I do cheerleading, and I do have to be very fast when I do Taekwondo. So that is my current weakness. So yeah, Taekwondo is quite a good one. And the parkour is actually not that big of a part of the stunt requirements, but it's a small part of the gymnastics test. And because the actual gyms are closed, it's just taken on a roll because you can do it outside and it's like free to do. So I'm just doing it at every opportunity I can, and that is bringing me so much joy. It's one of the most mentally challenging things that I have ever done. So I think that's what's drawing me into it so much. The satisfaction when you achieve a new skill is equal to when you hit a new skill in cheer, actually. So yeah, that's slowly becoming one of my second favorite sport after cheerleading.
Yeah, I'm really glad you clarified how cheerleading and Taekwondo was similar, because I really wasn't sure where you were going with that. So that's no, you're right. It's interesting, and that's a lot of what I wanted to talk to you about is just what maybe to some extent where cheer is helping you just in these completely different directions, and the parallels and differences there?
So the main thing that I have noticed that cheerleading is benefiting me in everything I'm doing is commitment. And I don't mean long-term commitment. Like when you join a cheerleading team, you commit for the season, and you kind of mess up everyone if you decide to leave halfway through. And we've all been there, either on a team where someone's left or you've had to leave, and you know how much that sucks. Even missing a session, your group then can't stunt. So that level of commitment to follow something through from start to end, that's like a main thing for my whole journey. Like this is going to take me years to qualify just because there is so much to do. So knowing that I can commit to something for that length of time is such a massive thing. But the other thing is like the short-term commitment. And I mean like the commitment to a single skill. Cheerleading is scary. Level 6 or level 7 terrifies me. You know this. Baskets that go upside down are not my thing. Put me in a switch kick triple, I'm happy. But as soon as I have to go upside down, oh, the heart rate just goes through the roof. But it is so much safer when you commit fully. If you freak out halfway through, or you're tentative about it, that's when it goes wrong, because you might not rotate enough, or your arms fly out, you're going to hit a base. If you commit fully to that skill and you perform it exactly as you should, it's much, much, much safer. That's the main thing that I'm learning to kind of transfer, especially for parkour. If you are jumping at a concrete wall and you decide to not put the right amount of effort in, and you decide halfway through that jump as you're taking off, oh, I'm not going to put in all the effort I need here, you're going to land short, your face will hit the wall, or you're just like, it's concrete, there's so much that can go wrong. So you have to know that you're going to commit 100%. You make the decision before you perform the skill, right, this is it, I'm committing 100% to this skill, I'm putting in everything I need exactly as it should be performed. And by doing that, you actually minimize the risk, even if you're putting in more effort. So that's the main takeaway that I've got from cheer. The other thing is giving 100%, and that's more in terms of like a session point of view. If you're at a 3-hour cheerleading session, we've all been there, you're exhausted, and the coach says, one more full out. And you feel like your limbs are going to fall off, you feel like you're going to throw up, your heart is beating so fast, you feel like it's going to break your ribs. But you know that if you put 100% in at that point in that practice, not only is everything going to go right, but the next time you come to do it, it's going to be even easier. So when I'm doing a full day of training, I've got a personal training session in the morning, and then I'm, out doing parkour, then I'm running my 6K, then I come home and I have a Taekwondo Zoom session. At every single point, I'm exhausted, but I know that if I put 100% effort in now, then the next day it's going to be easier, or the day after that it's going to be easier. So I definitely learned that through cheerleading, because without having pushed through those huge long sessions and doing full out after full out after full out, I wouldn't have seen that it becomes easier. So yeah, loads of things that I've taken from cheer, but those are the main aspects.
Those transferable life skills that coaches are always yapping on about. It might be the biggest cliche from coaches about, we're not just teaching cheer skills, we're teaching life skills.
And the other thing that is massive, which again, it sounds like just such a cliche, but listen to your coach. Honestly,
yes,
they are
like
telling you things for a reason. If you take on board what they say, actually listen, accept that you're not perfect, that you are always, always, always learning, you will progress so much faster. And this goes for everything. Even if you've got someone who's a young coach or has not coached before, listen to what they're saying, take it on board, at least try what they're telling you to do, because it might help you.
Yeah, I like that. And how have you found, because obviously, we're doing these different things, presumably you've been working with a lot of different coaches. Is that something you found really within that? Because of course, one of the things I think we face, for me as a coach, is that your athletes that you work with long term get used to you.
Yeah.
And perhaps sometimes the impact you can have is different. So, what's it been like just working with different coaches all the time? Is that something you're aware of?
Yes, definitely. I think you have a different relationship with anyone who's teaching you anything. It's like having different teachers at school for different classes. You respond differently to how they teach you. I think within cheerleading, I was quite lucky to have so many different coaches throughout the years. So it kept it sort of fresh. And I'm sure you've been in the position where you tell your athlete something over and over again, and then you get a guest coach in who says exactly the same thing once, and now they get it. And you're going, but I just said this to you. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, I
Um,
do that to people all the time. It's like the most common complaint I get doing camps. It's like I tell them the same thing all the time and they just changed it for you. I'm like, yeah, that's psychology at work.
yeah, yeah, it
All
really
it is.
is. I think the biggest difference between coaches in cheerleading and coaches that I've had in, say, Taekwondo, is how serious it's taken. So the experience that I had in cheer is very long term. You're committing for a full season. You become quite a bit of a family throughout that year, to the point that you'd kind of do anything for your team members during that season. And you get that same kind of relationship from your coach. The coach is very much part of the team. With something like Taekwondo, I'm finding that it's pretty much a class by class thing, because you kind of choose when you turn up. You're not competing, you're not part of this team for a full year where there's a competition at the end. It's very individual. So you listen to your coach, but you don't have as much of a bond as you would in cheerleading. So that's definitely something that I miss, not being part of a cheerleading team. But I like I said before, learning to listen to your coach has helped me massively, because it means now it doesn't matter what approach my teacher is giving me. I'll listen to what they say and try and utilize the information and the knowledge that they're giving me.
Yeah, that's something I think can be one of the hardest things to navigate in cheer is the relationship is two-way. Um, so, as a coach, you're kind of providing a service, if you like, for your athletes. You're there to teach, or the same if you run a program or whatever. You're providing a service that people are paying for, and there's that sort of customer provider relationship, if you like. But you also have that reciprocal where you need people's commitment.
Yeah.
It's a two-way relationship, and that can get so difficult sometimes. Especially when you run into an issue. I've said it before. I've been in a position, particularly when I was running a gym, where suddenly, a parent who was your best friend and on board with everything and great, and you really felt like you had a good relationship with, and you always try not to be friends, but to be friendly. But you
Yeah.
had, a positive relationship with, something would happen, some issue with their athlete, and then they're right back to being a customer real fast and throwing that at you. And that can be, I've had times where that was a painful thing to be sort of
Yeah.
thrown back at you. But I think everyone has to appreciate that two-way relationship in that, for sure. And that is, like you say, that's different in other sports settings sometimes.
Mm.
Um,
I think that that's a great point, actually. And I think it's so highlighted in cheerleading because people get so passionate, and decisions that are made. I think one of the main things that helped me understand it was by putting yourself in the shoes of your coach. You've got a team who you're trying to build up to perform a routine as you envision it. This is how the coach is seeing it. So you've essentially got 24 to 30, however many people you've got on the team, all these bodies, and you just want them to do exactly what they have been told to do in the right way to make the routine look great. And you care about these people as an individual, but at the end of the day, you've got a job to do. You're trying to get to a competition and put out the best routine you can. So if you're watching a routine and over again there's something going wrong, it's not an attack on that individual athlete to then take them out or water it down or switch them in for someone else. You're just trying to put out the best routine you can. When you understand that as an athlete, it then becomes easier to accept. If you're moved back off, into a different place, or your stunt is watered down, it's not because your coach hates you. It's because they're trying to make the decision that is best for the team when you go to compete and perform. And I think that's it's a difficult thing to understand for some people, especially parents, because they have so much pride and they're probably living through their children and these doing these amazing things, and then the child might feel so hurt that they've been moved, and it can become quite difficult to appreciate that this isn't a personal attack, it's just a decision that's being made for the good of the team. But once you can understand that, it becomes a lot easier to understand and really appreciate that coach athlete relationship, which does need to be friendly, and you do care about one another, but equally you're trying to do a job, you're trying to hit a great routine.
That's it. It's cooperative as well. You got to you're working together as well as for each other. Yeah, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. That's Star Trek wisdom right there. Okay, let's change tack a little bit. Well, kind of. So I'm interested to get your feelings on one of the oldest debates, co-ed versus all-girl cheer. So you've done a little both. I mean, I think I don't know whether we know you best or you've had some of your biggest success, in all-girl with Ruby and with Team England all-girl. But you've done a fair amount of co-ed stuff as well with Steel and just in general. Have you competed other co-ed teams?
Yeah, my first 2 years with Team England were both with co-ed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
What's my
maybe
take?
not pros and cons, but the differences and, how that experience is, because that's something people run into a lot, especially flyers.
Yeah, I love talking about this because it is such a massive debate. And I think the biggest point to put across first is they are so different. You cannot compare like their difficulty or which one is better because they are different skills. It's like trying to compare a basket toss with just like a stunt section. They're different skills. You can't think about them as being the same because they're not. They're kind of incomparable in that sense. But you do draw parallels because you do the same skills, as in you would do a full up. But a co-ed full up compared to an all-girl full up is so different. Like, you have to sort of separate and think about them as different skills. And funnily enough, on that note, I remember when I first tried doing co-ed stunting, and I remember someone being so worried that it was going to mess with my performance on Ruby because they were
I might have been there for that debate.
She can't do it because it's going to mess with her technique. She's not going to be able to perform with all girl. But I didn't understand because I felt like I was learning new skills. That's how different it is. You're not, yes, there are things that you can transfer, but it's not the same skill. It's a completely new sort of set of skills. Okay, so my personal favorite to do is probably all girl. Personally, like you said, I've had more experience with all girl, and I've probably had my most success with all girl through my many years of Ruby, and also we won 2017 Worlds with all girl, so best moment of my entire life. So yeah, I do love all girl. I think that might mostly just be because of the relationships that I formed. I was with Ruby for so many years. I think I was with them for 5 years, and the relationships that I built with those girls who were everyone was on that team to be the best that they could be. That level of passion really bonds you. And I think I fell in love with the all-girl style of stunting through that. The other thing I found, especially for flyers, is it's a lot more technical. You have to be very, very precise. And that's simply because of the physics of it. You've got 3 points of contact when you're doing all-girl stunting because you have 2 bases and a back spot, and all of them are connected to your foot. So if anyone is in the wrong place, it can really throw off the whole stunt. Everyone has to do their job exactly as it needs to be done. With co-ed stunting, as a flyer, I personally find it a little bit easier because you've only got that 1 point of contact. So if you feel your base, maybe they're slightly too back on your heels, you can immediately switch your center of gravity to be back a little bit and hold that stunt, keep it up in the air, because you can feel exactly where they are. When you've got 3 points of contact, it's harder to make those adjustments so fast, so you have to be more precise. So because I find it more challenging, I find it more enjoyable because the reward is greater for the amount of work that I have to put in. but to watch, and my bases are going to hate me for saying this, I do prefer watching co-ed stunting. I just think there is something so incredible about seeing one person lift one person and hold, you know, you see these boys and girls lifting one human being and holding them above their head with one hand. There is something that will never beat that. That is cheerleading. You see someone do a QP and you go, yeah, that's cheerleading. I
Yeah,
don't think all-girl stunting has the same impact.
that's a
So
tough one for a lot of people. Like, it's certainly, I mean, you weren't on the for teaming an all girl going to level 6. That for me was just a really, because it's a kind of ongoing thing, you know. Co-ed cheer always just somehow looks more impressive, and
yeah,
especially when you're up at, you know, that level 7, doing those 2.5 high skills and stuff. It was, I mean, it was a difficult thing to deal with, I think, for the whole team. In the With that ICU style, it just naturally, you know, the co-ed stuff just pops. There's just that
yeah.
more wow factor to it. And you know when you're in it that actually the difficult, I think all girl level 7 is the most
It's so
difficult discipline
hard.
you've got.
That was the most challenging half season of my life, trying to make sure you can hit your rewind every single time and do, you know, your level 7 baskets where, like, unfortunately they don't go as high. Like, I'm not trying to say that, like,
No,
girls are
it's true.
weaker, but like it's biology, and like the evidence is out there. You know, you do a basket on 3 boys, you're going to go higher than when you're on 3 girls.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
there's a
so
lot
much
of
more
those
fun.
skills are sort of power and strength driven, which, you
Yes,
know, is a lot of things. It's not necessarily the case at level 5 and 6, but with
exactly.
those, you need those high flying skills.
Yeah, that's another really good point. At level 7, I would always choose to be a co-ed because you have more time as a flyer, you have more time in the air to do those skills, so it becomes a lot easier. At level 5 or below, I want to be on all girl. Like, I love that challenge because it's so technical. Level 7 is such a whole different ball game because the skills are so power, throw, catch, and then skills happen in the air. Even with the pyramids, it's about that height and that power and just getting up, kind of. Whereas when you're at the lower levels, you're doing so many flips, so many twists, but someone's always connected. That challenge, that technical aspect really draws me in. So that's why I prefer doing all girl. But to watch a co-ed level 7 routine, just, oh, nothing beats it. Just seeing those baskets, oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's, you know, I think that's something I talked to you guys about as a group of flyers, you know, with all girl, is that's, to me, level 7 is the first major step as a flyer that your skill set has to change.
Yeah,
Because really from levels 3 through 7, once you're flying extended, what you're doing as a flyer doesn't change that much. You're going to spin an extra time, you know, as you
yeah,
move up the levels. But in general, once you've gotten used to flying on one leg in extension, the skill set doesn't change that much. As soon as you take that step up to level, you know, now you're introducing whole new ways of moving that as a flyer. And it's funny because some flyers that perhaps aren't the best, you know, at level 6 are fantastic at level 7. It's just their
yes,
skill set. The skill set is so different. And then going back as well to what you're saying about stunting. Again, interesting perspective, because as a flyer, you're right. With co-ed stunting, mostly you're sort of the base's tool to be thrown around.
yeah,
And someone I always talk to guys about, like, this is your stunt. This is the time as a base that you're showcased.
yeah,
Really, most of the
yeah.
skill in the skill set is yours outside of really high level stuff. Whereas in, you know, there's a lot more moving parts in an all girl stunt, in a group
Yeah.
stunt. And you're right, you have to have that. There's more technical stuff going on there that you're responsible for. So it's an interesting comparison. You know, it's got me thinking differently about it as well.
Yeah.
Actually, that's really interesting.
Yeah, if you separate them into being 2 skills, that's when you can really start to decide, okay, I like this skill or I dislike this skill. I love co-ed handstands. I prefer anything that's upright on an all girl. I love co-ed baskets. I prefer double downs on all girl. Like you can separate as individual skills instead of kind of trying to categorize all of all girl and all of co-ed, because you can't compare those two circles of stunts.
Yeah. Well, I guess the other side of it is and this, I mean, this can vary wildly anyway, but just the team atmosphere and culture can change between all girl and co-ed as well. I mean, I've coached obviously
Massively.
both kinds of teams over the years, and I mean, I've seen it be good and bad in both sides of it, really. You know, all girl teams a lot of the time tend to be more nurturing um, and caring environments when they're positive, but can get bitchy and, you
Yeah,
know, can
bit
have all the
catty.
negative stuff that goes along with that. Whereas co-ed teams tend to bond much quicker and easier because the
Yeah,
guys just mix up the mood. They tend to lighten the mood a lot of the time. So it
yeah,
can be much easier to get a co-ed team to bond, but can be harder to get them close, if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
still
yeah.
getting together because you've got athletes that are you've got more diversity, perhaps just by gender difference.
Mm,
Uh, that the two can be, you know, so different. And I mean, it's fascinating. Like I say,
yeah,
it's an individual team thing, really, but there's definitely some generalizations there, I think.
yeah. It definitely is. There's so many differences, and I'm thinking back now, some of my best years with all girl. I've never been on a team that's so passionate. Like all the girls, the dedication and the commitment was way higher than anything I've experienced on a co-ed team. And yet I've actually had a lot more fun with co-ed teams, because
I was going to say
there is
training
just
fun is different.
like training fun. I don't know what it is about that, but you just end up enjoying that training time. And I think it might be that there's that bit more of a competitive like sense between the boys, but also they don't always take everything as seriously. And that, I don't mean that they don't
Yeah.
have the dedication, but they just enjoy the training a bit more. I don't know, it's very different.
No,
I
you're
love
absolutely
both. I
right.
love both. I
From
couldn't
the
I couldn't decide.
from the coaching side of it, definitely it could be, you know, banging your head against the wall to get the boys to take things as seriously as they're supposed to. But it's also, you know, it can be easier sometimes to motivate guys because a lot of the time they're more competitive. So you can
Mm.
just switch the buttons and, you know, they know when to go. Whereas sometimes it's harder to find with girls their motivation.
Yeah, like, why are you here? They kind of
Yeah.
need, you sometimes need like a reason, or to be reminded, like, you're doing great, you're doing great. Now let's do better.
Yeah. It's like gently building up a lot of the time with
Yeah,
girls. Whereas with guys, you can just dangle the carrot and go, here you
yeah,
go, throw a double. It'll be fun.
yeah.
You'll like it.
That's
It's such a
it.
different culture. All right. Last thing I want to talk about a little, and we've kind of touched on it somewhat already, is just your experience with Team England that I think people would be interested to hear about, because you have really, I mean, you've done it all just about
Yeah.
outside. So you've done all girl elite, co-ed elite, and
No, so I did co-ed elite for 2 years, and then I did. Oh no, oh, right, hold on. I'm getting confused because of the like non-season. So
yeah,
I did co-ed elite for 2 years, then I did all-girl elite, and then we started training the all-girl premier, but we never actually competed that. Um, okay, so 2015 was my first year. That was actually one of the first times that I'd done co-ed stunting. I'd not been on a co-ed, like a true co-ed team before that. I'd been on junior co-ed teams, but it's not quite the same. So that was 2015. I was based by Connor McNevin and Matt Delday, two excellent human beings. We trained so hard that year. They really boosted my confidence in a massive, massive way, because I had never competed co-ed truly, and I thought so little of myself at that time. I didn't think I should even be on the team, and somehow we made it on, and then somehow we got all the way to Worlds, and it was my first time being at Worlds, and you compete ICU first, so like that was my first time walking out onto a world stage, and it was just incredible. And then I dropped my opening partner stunt, so that was really sad.
can't
And
drop yourself. We'll blame the boys.
it depends who you ask. The three of us have a different excuse for why I dropped.
We'll give him a shout out too. Everybody check out Coached by Connor for all your personal training and mobility needs. He did a great class I went to the other night. Anyway.
So that was that was a great year, despite not hitting a perfect routine. It was one of the most incredible experiences I will ever have. And we ended up fifth that year, which actually was pretty decent at that point for UK cheerleading. The year after that, I did
Yeah, that was
Coed
our first
again.
year, right? Yeah.
No, there
Was
was
the
one
second
year
year then?
before that. Yeah, one year before
Oh,
that.
we had 2 years in fifth. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, fifth, then third. So that year, 2016, I was coached by Jack. I was based by Jack Holmes and Dean Murrell, another phenomenal group. Love them.
That's a long way up in the air to be.
Oh, a
So
long way up in the air. Jack is one of the tallest people I have ever stunted with in my life. And he worked so hard. I cannot express how much like love I have for that boy. He worked so hard because we had to have a partner stunt section. So we had our co-ed stunts, that was all fine. And then it was who was going to base, Jack or Dean, for the partner stunt. So Jack and I went for it. And I remember our first session, like a toss hands was tough. And by the end of the year, we did ball up stretch, pop down, hands QB. And to be able to hit that and hit it, so we hit it at Worlds, obviously. To be able to like compete that and have gone from struggling with a toss post to hitting that was just one of the best like progressions that I've ever had that year.
I need
That whole
at
year.
this point, I need to insert or see if I can insert the picture of you and Jack next to each other so people
Yeah, we
understand
took
the
one at
height
every
difference at
competition
work
that
here.
year. I'll send you them. He's an excellent person and just so dedicated, had so much passion. So that was such an incredible year because we worked so hard and the whole team did. I remember that being a great year for Team England. There was no slacking. And I think it was because we had, after coming fifth, we had such a drive as a team to try and medal. And it seemed so achievable that year. So we were just pushing and pushing and pushing to try and get for that medal position. And we did. And that feeling when they called us out for third, my goodness, was just the best in the world. So yeah, that was a great season. 2017 will forever, I can't talk about it without smiling, will forever be my favorite year of my life. I was stunting with my three absolute best friends, Kate, Jane, and Amy. They have like seen me grow up. We were on Ruby together from like sort of day dot, and they definitely taught me so much. And we competed a group stunt together for quite a few years, and then we decided, okay, we'll try out for Team England. We made it on. That year was the most hardworking year for the team. Like 2016 was all about the passion. Like we knew we could medal. There was a lot of passion on that team. 2017 was just hard work because there was this idea that we could win, and it felt so tangible. None of us wanted to let that go. So we worked so hard. And there were many points throughout the season where there were changes being made last minute. And I think there were injuries and stunts that we were worried about where people weren't hitting. And by the time that we got there and we competed on the first day, I think we had a bobble or a fall or something, but we still ended up in first. And then on that second day, that second performance, we hit the most perfect zero routine. And that moment, finishing the routine and coming off the floor, knowing that we had hit a zero run, that was better than winning the gold medal, than being called out first. Because you work so hard your entire year with a group of people to try and be the best you can be. So, and at the end of the day, I'm using a quote from the Netflix TV series here, but at the end of the day, cheerleading is still subjective. So you might hit a perfect routine, but you still might not win because it's someone else is giving their opinion of this routine. But as an athlete, if you hit your perfect routine, you know that you have done everything you can to be the best you can be. So that is the point that is most fulfilling, not winning the gold medal. So yeah, 2017, those girls will forever. Sometimes when I'm like sad or just a bit you know, reminiscing on the past, I'll just watch that routine, and honestly, it makes me cry because it was such a good performance. It was such a good year, and I think competing with Team England, to be able to have, you know, England written across your chest, you're representing your country. That is one of the most incredible things. So then to go out and do it justice and to hit a perfect routine because you've worked so hard in that build up, just the most amazing feeling in the world.
Excellent. I'm trying to think because I was coaching Coed that year, and I don't think I got to watch the routine live. I don't think I got to watch it in front. I think we were back in warm up or something.
Yeah, we sort of came off almost like one after each other, I think.
Yeah, which I'm just always sad about, because, and it seems to happen all the time. You know, it's just one of those things when you're a coach, you're always running laps, chasing teams around.
Backwards and forwards.
But yeah, it's always been a regret that, you know, especially having been there the previous 2 years, and just, yeah, been in front of that routine. I love doing that. I love watching that. There's something special about that ICU atmosphere with the fans. That was the first year that the fans really got on board as well.
I remember. Okay, fun story for you. So right before you go on at Worlds, there's like this big walkway that you do through the warm-up room, and then you come down the side, and then you're behind the stage, and there's these big sort of drapes, and then you have these two screens where they're projecting for the audience what's happening on the floor. But while you're behind, they're doing shots of the crowd. And you can see this in the multicam video that's on the ICU YouTube page. Obviously, I watch it loads of times, cry every time. And we were standing behind, and there's a guy with like a little headset, and they're keeping everything running on time. And he's the one who says, okay, off you go, like you can go onto the floor. So we're queuing up and everything, and everyone knew in the stands that England were coming next, and it was the year that we had the most support. Every team, every all-star team that was there from England had come to support Team England. And what is so, like, the best thing about that team is you've got stunt groups from Unity, Coventry Dynamite, teams that, like, you might not have heard of. Like, everyone is on this shared team, and then the next day you're going to compete against each other. It's bizarre, but for that moment you are teammates and you will do anything for one another. And the support that we felt from the crowd was so incredible. And this guy turned to me and he went, I don't think I need to go to a football match now, because I now understand like the level at which English people get excited about their sports, because it really was that insane. People were chanting, there were whistles, everyone had dressed up. I'm pretty sure one of Olivia Mellon's dad, Mr. Mellon, had
I was going to say, we need to give the shout out to John Mellon and Darren Geddes, the one and only British cheer dad at this point. But, you know, really, they were the ones who centralized and organized that support. And ever since has been, you know, such a amazing. It is a real buzz. Just I've a couple of times taken myself out of the coach's box and up into the stands with the fans. Yeah, because it's just a blast up there singing the songs.
Yeah. Oh, it's honestly absolutely incredible. That whole year was just, that's how cheerleading should be, that level of support and that level of sort of encouragement from people, because at the end of the day, it's a performance sport. It's not a race. There's no like this person crossed that line at like in first place. Everything is opinion based at the end of the day. I mean, obviously it doesn't count if a stunt falls, that's an obvious mistake, but if you've got two teams who hit perfect routines, and that's my favorite kind of competition to be in, it's just opinion based. And to be able to separate yourself from going, I'm competing against these people, to actually support them, that's what cheerleading should be about, that level of encouragement from other people. And you definitely feel that at ICU. There is no like parallel between that, like Team England, Team Canada, Team USA, that environment, that competition is just the most amazing thing to experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure there's another atmosphere like that in the cheer world, particularly. It's just, it's just different. You know, you go to large all-girl finals is pretty special because there's a lot of that same sort of partisan support where people just really back one team. But it still just doesn't sort of take over the arena in sections like ICU does, where all the fans are sat together for their own countries and they're singing each other's songs and stuff. Yeah, it's just something special about that competition and it's so nice to have everyone, like you say, it happens before Worlds is going on, ISF Worlds. So you've got everybody together, and then it is after that. Once you get into ISF and USASF Worlds, you barely see everybody again because everyone's on different schedules. There's 20 something teams all competing in different times. You try and go and watch people if you can, but everybody
running
just has to switch gear.
Tents. Yeah.
That's always been one of the biggest challenges, I think, for athletes is coping with that and switching gear. Because sometimes, you might have practice with your all-star team and Team England in the same day. And you've got two separate sets of coaches demanding your full attention.
Yeah.
And that's such a big part of it, being able to handle switching gears like that.
Yeah, I definitely experienced that. I think 2015 was a bit of a shock to the system because that was my first year at Worlds and I was competing with Coed, Team England, all girl with Ruby. And it was such a massive surprise, I think, because you get out there for 10 days or something before the competition and you're training every single day if you're on both teams, and some days twice a day, in the morning with one, in the afternoon with the other, and you forfeit with your all-star team. They might train in the morning and then go and like explore Disney, or you train in the afternoon, but in the morning you go to like Rock Springs and have a nice time barbecue by the river. You don't get that luxury if you're doing both teams. So 2017 was a great year for me because I wasn't competing all-star. I only did ICU. So that was a lot more manageable. So I guess a piece of advice, if I could give to someone, is if you are going for the first time, pick one, like either do your all-star or do your ICU. I'd recommend as your first time, do all-star because it is a bit more serious. And I think you become more focused doing that. But then once you've experienced that and it feels manageable, do both. I mean, I've had a great time doing both. But it was a huge amount. And I remember 2016, I was actually really, really unwell. I had a throat infection throughout the entire trip and I was so ill and it was really tough, and I just was crying every morning because I'm tired, I don't want to do it, and we were jet lagged, but it was still one of the best experiences of my life. So if you're thinking about doing it, try out
something over the years. I think as a coaching staff we've had to start being more cognizant of is just not just people's talent but their ability to deal with stuff. Like, is it their first year going to, have they never been to Worlds at all? Are they going to be able to deal with that? I mean, not even just the pressure at the event, but the pressure of training, with training those limited hours and you've got to get it done. There's no choice. We've got one more day of training and it has to hit, or too bad it's going on the floor anyway, or it's coming out. Like it's such a tough thing. It's a tough environment to work through. And it's definitely, I mean, positive and character building, don't get me wrong, but definitely a tough thing. And I always love, I go so many places and kids will tell me, they go, oh, do you coach Team England? They're like, I want to make Team England one day. Like, it's great that it's become so many people's part of their target, part of their consciousness that's out there, and, that's something they can aim for.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that
in great parts, people like yourself for setting a wonderful example, paving the way.
I'm glad it is in people's forefront of a goal, because I know that setting those sorts of goals is what got me through my whole cheer career. I went to my first ICC Nationals, Nottingham, and I saw Unity Black compete at what was level 6, now level 7. And I remember watching that routine, and that was the decision. It was in that moment when they hit their second pyramid, I said, okay, I want to be on a level 6 routine one day. And I set myself 5 cheer goals: be a point stunt group, be point for jumps one day, compete at Worlds, win Worlds, and be on a level 6 routine. Those were my 5 goals.
Too much then.
Not too much. No, manageable goals. But I made that promise and I said, I won't stop this until I've done all those things. And in 2017, we won Worlds, and that was my last one to tick off. And there we go. Done.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid list of achievements by anybody's standards, and definitely nice to set goals and meet goals. I was talking about this on the coaches hangout the other night. I'm like, I'm not actually the biggest fan of of goal setting. Not that I'm
Okay.
against it necessarily, but I don't like setting like what I call airy fairy goals that are too far fetched. It's like, what do you want to achieve this season? Win worlds. Which now that I'm saying this, my goal every season is win
Still
worlds.
win worlds, yeah.
Even if I'm coaching tiny level one.
Still win worlds.
But yeah, my goal is always win worlds until it's mathematically impossible. But I also have 3 levels of goals. You've got your ultimate goal, which is always win worlds. And then you've got your goal that you'd be happy with, and then your goal that you'd be satisfied with. I always think you've got to have 3 levels. Like, okay, yeah, I want to win worlds. And it's not impossible because, anything could happen. Until it's impossible, it's not impossible. And then where would I be happy? All right, maybe that's top 3, if that's where I think we could get to if we really nail it. And then it's like, well, also if we're top 5, then that's perfectly acceptable. You've got to have leveled goals. I'm a big fan of that.
I like that. I've never thought about that in that way, but I appreciate that. I think
I really like it. It's something I've talked to athletes a lot about in just getting the mindset right, because it's great to have that big goal, but you don't want to be setting yourself up for disappointment. Like if your goal is to win worlds, but that's a really tiny long shot, then you're probably going to end up disappointed. But if you should be making top 10, then that's your minimum standard, if you like. And if you don't do that, then perhaps you should be disappointed. That's okay. And then you're like, you know what, if we really kill this, we could be top 5. And then if you get that, over the moon, everybody eat pizza, have a party. Like
I like it. I like this. This is a new way of thinking about it. My usual tactic is about long-term and short-term goals. So you set yourself a big long-term goal. For mine right now is get on the British Stunt Register. That's quite a massive goal. And then you can break that down into as many like rungs of the ladder as you want. You've got section 1, get my Taekwondo black belt. Section 2, get my swimming test done. Section 3, get my gymnastics test done. And then you can break that down into the individual skills. Okay, for swimming, I need to swim 400 meters in 10 minutes. Okay, great. So if I can swim 200 meters in 4 minutes, fantastic. Can I swim 100 meters in 2 minutes? You break it down into these tiny chunks. So you have these short-term goals. This week, I want to achieve my toe tuck. Okay, then the long-term goal, be on a level 5 routine, be on a level 5 team. Like you break it down into what do I need to achieve to do that. And then it keeps you motivated because you set these small goals that you can feasibly achieve that lead you towards that big goal. And then even if you don't end up achieving that big goal, you've got all these tiny achievements that you have ticked off. So you can be happy with yourself, and pride is not a bad thing. Ego, remove that. But pride is very like a legitimate thing. You can be proud of yourself. You can be proud of your accomplishments, but don't let it build your ego.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that because I always say a goal without a plan is just a far-fetched dream. So
I love this.
That's what I was trying to say. That I don't like about goal setting is people just set a goal with no strategy of how to. I'm all about strategy. It's a goal without a plan is just a dream, and dreams aren't reality. So you've got to link up the two. And I even go further than that. Another thing, we talked about on the coaches chat the other night. I'm a big fan of process goals. So not just, I want to land a toe back. You're going to go, all right, into every practice go, today I'm going to attempt 10 toe backs, whatever it is. You make goals that are just to do with how much the process of getting there, how much work you're going to do without worrying about the outcome goal. When you take the outcome goal away, because you can always achieve 10 attempts, whether you're successful or not, doesn't weigh into it. And if, the smart thing I once heard, if you do anything enough, you're going to get better at it.
It's true. It's true. I love that. Oh, these are brilliant. Might write these down, stick them on my motivation wall.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff like that. Yeah, I'm all about strategy and the short-term goals, breaking things down. Getting into deep sports science now with microcycles and macrocycle planning. I love a bit of strategic planning, but we won't get too deep into that. In fact, we'll kind of call it a day there, because that's a lot of great conversation. And, I don't want to give everyone too much to dig through to find the golden nuggets in there. So it's all gold.
Good plan.
So we will call it a day. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome. Fantastic. This was honestly so nice. just really nice to talk about cheerleading because there has been such a lack of it in the past year. It's just nice to kind of discuss and reminisce.
Ah,
And
right.
yeah.
And we're going to try and set some more stuff up with you, doing some demo things and taking us through some stuff as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. In the meantime, tell everyone where they can find you and your socials and that kind of stuff.
Oh
They should
yeah.
definitely follow your stories for daily updates of you doing crazy fun things.
So you can find me on Instagram on with Zara Stunts. That's my like all my sports kind of stuff. And actually, there's kind of becoming a cheerleading page as well. And then Zara Raindrop is more of a personal page that you can follow if you want to see what I ate for dinner. And then yeah, that's it. I'm not really on many other social medias. Instagram is my sole platform. So yes, feel free to follow me
And hopefully we'll start seeing more of you on Next Level as well, I think. So
yeah, that would be great.
cool. All right. Well, thank you so much again. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.